And we are live. This meeting of the City of Socorro City Council is set to begin. First and foremost, the City of Socorro would like to thank everyone and ask for your patience during this difficult time we have been presented with. Everyone, please remember to silence any electronics to avoid sound interruption. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. In accordance with Section 418.016 of the Texas Government Code and by order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City Council of the City of Socorro will broadcast the meeting scheduled today, Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 6 p.m. from City Hall chambers located at 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, via telephone conference and live stream in order to advance the public health goal and practice social distancing to slow the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. The public that signed up and any presenters will be called upon by the presiding officer during the meeting to speak during public comment or their agenda item during the meeting following Government Code 551.042. La reunión del Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Primeramente queremos darles las gracias y pedimos su paciencia durante estos momentos críticos que enfrentamos. Favor de poner en silencio todo equipo electrónico para evitar interrupción de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. A quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada será desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. De acuerdo con sección 418.016 del Código del Gobierno de Texas y por orden de la Oficina del Gobernador anunciada el 16 de marzo de 2020, el Concilio de la Ciudad de Socorro transmitirá la reunión hoy 4 de junio de 2020 a las 6 p.m. desde la sala del concilio localizada en 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, por medio de teléfono y será transmitida en vivo para tomar medidas preventivas para prevenir la propagación de la enfermedad del virus corona COVID-19 a los demás y por la seguridad del público. El público y los presentadores serán anunciados por el oficial conduciendo la reunión para poder hablar durante la sección del comentario público después de la discusión del artículo de la agenda por cual se apuntaron siguiendo las reglas del gobierno 551.042.
So 3, the meeting is now called to order. Would Ms. Rodarte please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty, justice for all.
justice for all.
Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
René Rodríguez,
Here.
Cesar Nevares, is absent. Ralph Duran,
Here.
Mayor Elia Garcia,
Here.
Victor Perez,
Here.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos. Here. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Item number 4, public comment.
We have 3 speakers for this item. Our first speaker is Margie Perez.
Ms. Perez?
This is Margie Perez. I live at 10949 Mesa Drain. I had been at a meeting with planning and zoning concerning some lot cleanup, and I have not heard anything from the planning department. I wanted to know when they were going to send out letters or if they had sent them out already. This is on 10930 East Birch and 10974 East Birch. That's on the side of my home, and in the back of my home, there's piles of trash, unclean, weeds, to where there was an infestation in my house. I went ahead and sent pictures of the infestation of the bugs and of the trash and of the weeds, and it's horrible. And the bad thing about it is that July the 4th is coming, and even though Socorro prohibits fireworks, they still pop them. And the thing is that if this happens, we're going to go up in smoke because there's a lot of trash in back of my home and on the side. I spoke to a lady in the planning and zoning day before yesterday, and I asked her, I thought that she couldn't tell me if it was 10 days or 30 days as far as the ordinance, how long the people have to clean. So I know that you can comment, but I would like to hear from the planning and zoning at a later time. Thank you.
Mayor, and Cesar Nevares joined the meeting at 6:06 p.m. Our next speaker is Miriam Cruz.
Ms. Cruz?
Okay. Yes. I was waiting to get unmuted.
Sorry.
So there's a few things that I want to talk about. Some of the things I've already said in the past many times. One is I'm not very happy with these 4 o'clock meetings that are happening. I know that they're workshops, but it almost doesn't seem fair that they're in the middle of a workday. And so it's frustrating. And then of course I was still on there, and then the meeting didn't happen. And I understand that there's going to be technical difficulties, but I feel like after a certain point, I believe when we're there in person, it's 15 minutes, and the mayor or pro tem mayor has the ability to extend that. But as someone who's working, as someone who's online and is trying to do multiple things, I think it's better if you guys just, after 15 minutes, if there's no quorum, if there's no connection, if there's whatever is happening, you just, put it, too bad, we'll reschedule and that's it. Let's not be, keeping so many people holding on and waiting around, including yourself. The second thing I want to mention, and it applies to today, but it also applies to other meetings. I've mentioned this before, where I know that sometimes certain individuals, whether it's, the chief of police or other people who come and visit us for certain presentations or whatnot, are given preference or are added to the top of the agenda. And I've never understood why the same can't be done to the public. So if there's a member of the public who signed up to speak on item 25, and you guys know that it's going to be probably 3 hours before you get to item 25, I'm not really sure why it just can't become a rule that you move up that item so that that person is not sitting there, waiting for the whole meeting to just talk on one item. It's possible that they want to sit through the whole meeting, but in case that they don't, I feel like the public should also be given the same courtesy as just as anyone else, so that those items are moved up to the top of the agenda. One of the other things I want to mention is that a few times I have signed up for a few items, and I understand, again, with the difficulties that we're online, we're doing this virtually. There have been a few times that I have been not called on or skipped, even though I did sign up to speak on items. And so I just wanted to bring that up because just so that you guys are aware of it, because maybe maybe you're not. And so I just wanted to bring that up. I'm thinking maybe if it happened to me, it might have happened to others. And so I just hope that the city can be a little bit more cognizant of that. I'm also going to make a comment about what was supposed to happen at 4 o'clock. Because,
Ms. Cruz, your time is
I guess
up.
I'm not. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Lorena Rodriguez.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Hi, hello. Yes, ma'am. Hello, my name is Lorena Rodriguez. I live on 10771 Westford. My complaints and concerns are about Claudia and Guillermo Boneta's property, which is literally across the street from us, from our home. Their address is 833 Westford Road and 833 South Horizon. I'm going to start off with 833 Westford property. The semi trucks and roll-offs are parking on residential property. We've complained to the code enforcement department and the police department, and to no avail. They continue to randomly park and at odd hours. They seem to take it, especially on the weekends. I think when they know that the code enforcement's not out and about, they're parking their vehicles, working on their vehicles on 833 Westford, which is a residential property. Judge Moody did order the usage of the property just for turnarounds only, but they're not complying, and it doesn't seem like anything's happening. And this is it's already over a year, and I was hoping we could get this solved by hopefully this year. On the next subject is the 833 South Horizon. They have one large roll-off full of garbage and rubbish, and it's piled high. It's literally behind the sugar cane. Those have been there since February. I've been complaining about this since February. The pile is just getting taller and taller. They also have 2 additional roll-offs full of garbage and debris. I know that if they go to Clint, it is open. They can go to the city dump and dump all that, but it seems like it just sits there. And I still complain. And once again, this is since February. I believe that it's a hazard, it's a fire hazard. I've also noticed the increased cockroaches, the mosquitoes and the flies in that area, especially the flies that are surrounding those dumpsters. It's starting to smell of rotten trash. And I know they're not zoned for that. It's not even recycled items. These are actually human waste, like human garbage. And you could literally see them. And I encourage you all to go and drive by and see it. It's right off of Horizon. And you can see it right behind the sugarcane and right off to the side of the driveway. And once again, I have complained to Ms. Workman. I've called, I've left messages, I've emailed, and no one seems to be returning my phone calls. I also have videos and photos to show proof that I'm not exaggerating. So that's all. I just wanted to let you know that I hope that we'll at least get the garbage out. It's just a pile high of garbage. And hopefully we could get the 833 Westford property solved. It's just the dust when they're coming through the turnaround. The dust that just comes over to our house. But the fact that they're not even listening to Judge Moody.
Ms. Rodriguez, your time is up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares, is absent. Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 12, public hearing of an ordinance for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of tracks 2, 3, 4, 7, 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 10, 11, 12A, 13, 13A, 13A2, 14, and 14A, Block 5, Socorro Branch for a new development. 6:15, public hearing is now open.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. These items were postponed in the last meeting because the applicant requested to postpone them, but tonight we're asking you to the entire item 12 and 13. They're gonna come back with another proposal. Don't wanna move forward with this one anymore.
So we make a motion to delete?
Yes, please.
Mayor, can we please close the public hearing first?
6:15, public hearing is now closed.
Do we have a motion to delete
Yes, I'll make a motion to delete.
12 and 13?
Yes,
Second.
that's approved.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares? Absent. Ralph Duran,
Back. Had a power outage.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Item number 14,
Mayor,
public hearing on the,
Mayor, may I interrupt you for a little bit?
Rodriguez?
Could we have at least a minute of silence for George Floyd? Is an individual who was, you know, death happened on this past week, and I think that we should, you know, recognize that our surrounding cities are going through some turmoil at this time, and I think that we should just pay some respects. I would just want to say that if we could just give a minute of silence, if you allow it.
I second.
Mr. Martinez, do we need to do anything special?
Yeah, actually, you shouldn't be doing that. We might could have done it in open session, but right now you're not posted for that.
Okay, no problem.
Moving on to item 14, public hearing on written charge to remove Juan Castañeda as a member of the Board of Adjustments for the City of Socorro, Texas. 6:17, public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed. Item number 15, discussion and action on approval to remove Juan Castañeda as a member of the Board of Adjustments for the City of Socorro, Texas.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 16, discussion and action to ratify a letter of support on behalf of the City of Socorro for the City of El Paso Sun Metro and El Paso County application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, helping obtain prosperity for everyone program.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator for the City of Socorro. The City of El Paso, Sun Metro, and El Paso County have approached us to request a letter of support for their grant application. They are applying for a grant from the Department of Transportation for a feasibility study to assess whether there are any better alternatives for fare structures and payment methods for Sun Metro that could benefit Socorro transit riders. And so we are here requesting your approval for that letter of support.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 17, update on El Paso County Transit Study and recent recommendations.
Good afternoon. This is an update that ties back to the item that was discussed during our capital workshops meeting. During that meeting, you all requested an update on El Paso County's transit study and their shelter locations. So I want to provide that update now. And if, I don't know if everybody can see that. Can everybody see my screen? There it is. Okay. So El Paso County received a grant from the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization to put approximately 20 bus shelters all over El Paso County. In order to do that, TxDOT did request that they put together a study to determine what the best location would be for those bus shelters. And to do that, El Paso County contracted the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, TTI, to conduct that study. TTI has done a really good job of gathering data since 2019 to put together not only this shelter recommendations, but also some potential models for transit to expand services or implement new services to areas of the county that are underserved. And so I just wanted to show you this map because it includes the bus shelter locations that resulted from TTI's study. These recommendations have not been formally adopted yet, but they have been recommended by TTI. And I only took a screenshot of the shelter locations that are on our side of the county. And so you can see there that green markers are where they are recommending those bus shelter locations. They did consider the ridership at these locations, the need for the bus shelter at these locations, and then also the origin and destination, and lastly, safety, whether there is the capacity to put a bus shelter and whether it can be done in a place that is safe and that people can actually access. I also, in your backup, I included the slides that were presented at the last county commissioners meeting from TTI, and it does include a lot of information regarding some of the transit models that they are proposing. And again, these are still recommendations. The plan has not been adopted, but our goal here today was to explain that there was a study conducted, that they have determined some bus shelter locations here in Socorro, and to make it known to you that the study is still ongoing and it has not been adopted yet. I don't know if our city planner, Mr. Medina, has anything to add to this, but that's all I wanted to bring to your attention.
So just to follow up on that is that we've been working with the county to identify these priorities for the city. The 31 shelters that I had talked about in the capital improvement program are of a combination of areas that are serviced either by Sun Metro or even by the county itself. And so what we wanted to do is kind of give you all an understanding of what TxDOT was requiring El Paso County to do moving forward, and making sure that the stops that they're identifying have the capacity, meaning that there's the capability to have sidewalks that are ADA compliant and et cetera, so that they can go in there and place them. Now, one of the things that we identified in the capital improvement program is that there are areas that we do know, for example, that the county transit routes do not have the capacity to install these shelters, simply because there's no sidewalks or things that are needed under the ADA program. And so if anybody has any questions or comments regarding the capital improvement program and how this relates, I can certainly answer any.
Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, my question is this. Out of our portion that we initially set forth back last year, when Mr. Landeros came to us and asked us what plans we were looking at, is that figure going to change because of this plan?
So there's two things, is that this is the route, stop, and the shelter. And so what TxDOT had asked the county is to identify the new potential routes, the stops, and any shelters within the area. of that proposed opportunity with the local government corporation. So there's really two things going on, is that they're asking from an infrastructure perspective, you know, where do you have the capacity to locate or install the shelters? And more importantly is that the service is any of these routes in combination with what's out there can forward that combination. So essentially is that when the county comes in and if they decide to put a stop, it's, you know, and shelter and all that, it's on their dime as it relates to this recommendation. Our partnership is to help them from a financial perspective. So when the county moves forward and establishes the local government corporation, we will be working with the county as a partner with the LGC to fund this project. So our scenario and the thing that the county that the city has then adopted is a financial commitment to that. But the last figure all that I gave you was about $120,000 over a three-year period. That's for the service.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just to clarify and I think you've mentioned this before, the number of allocations differ from city to city. Was for the necessity, number one, and the readiness is what I'm hearing. Mr. Medina?
So the financial model that TTI used is actually based on the availability of service miles. And so we, you know, in coordination with others that have it, is that we have a large amount of roadways that include Alameda, Socorro Road, North Loop, Horizon, and now Nuevo Hueco Tanks. So we have a lot more service miles that would help the county, if you will, related to the funding. So our portion is greater compared to some of the municipalities. So, you know, here, one of the things that we were trying to advocate through the CIP, in the areas that we can put the stops or the shelters, was to advocate for that. But also, if you remember from the Master Sidewalk Plan presentation, I also said that we have to coordinate with TxDOT because there's portions of Alameda and specifically Socorro Road where we don't have any sidewalks. So another thing that I mentioned is that the MPO is having a call for projects, and we are making a recommendation to the MPO to incorporate sidewalks so that we can also advance transit initiatives.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have one speaker for this item, Miriam Cruz.
My questions were answered. Thank you.
Moving on to item number 18, discussion and action on approving an electronic signature policy in light of the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Once more, this item is before you to adopt an electronic signature policy in light of COVID-19. As you all know, our public administration buildings had to temporarily reduce their services and close down. And so in order to have a policy in place that dictates when we can use electronic signatures and when we cannot, we'd like to present this policy to you. This policy provides some very clear guidelines for when we can use the electronic signature. It does apply to elected officials, employees, contractors, vendors, grantors, and third-party providers to the city of Socorro, and allows us to use electronic signatures to conduct official city business. There are some general guidelines that will be followed through this policy. In essence, the city departments and staff will be allowed to use electronic signatures in accordance with this directive, so long as it does not go against any prohibitions that exist by law. So where policies, laws, regulations, and rules require a signature, an electronic signature will be enough, sufficient. But if a law prohibits a transaction from occurring electronically, the transaction must occur in the manner specified by law. The federal government and the state of Texas already have electronic signatures policies in place, and a lot of federal documents, including grant contracts, allow the use of an electronic signature, and those are covered by the Texas Uniform Electronic Transaction Act here in the state of Texas. I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Mayor, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 19, discussion and action to approve the city of Socorro to enter into a grant agreement with the Texas Division of Emergency Management, TDEM, in order to participate in FEMA's Public Assistance Program and seek reimbursement for eligible COVID-19 expenses. This FEMA grant program will reimburse 75% of eligible expenses.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The City of Socorro has applied for FEMA's Public Assistance Program. This is a reimbursement program for our COVID-19 expenses. They will reimburse 75% of eligible costs incurred due to COVID-19. We do need to sign this grant agreement or a grant contract with TDEM, which is our state's administrator for FEMA's Public Assistance Program, in order to move forward with the reimbursement process.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 20, discussion and action to approve the city of Socorro to enter into a grant contract with the Texas Historical Commission for the fiscal year 2020 Certified Local Government Grant Award for the Rio Vista Farm Rehabilitation Project.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We did receive an award from the Texas Historical Commission Certified Local Government Program in the amount of $30,000 for the Rio Vista Farm Rehabilitation Project. In order to start the grant work, we do need to enter in a grant contract or a grant agreement with the Texas Historical Commission, and that is the contract that is before you. And I do believe that we may have to request an amendment, a small amendment to this contract based on Mr. Martinez's recommendation, but I believe that that can be accommodated.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 21, discussion and action regarding city events due to the COVID pandemic and the uncertainty of the near future. Staff would like to discuss the feasibility of postponing this current fiscal year's festivities to next year and expand our virtual programming and reevaluating at a later date for the status of the events traditionally scheduled for the start of the fiscal year: Halloween, homecoming, Thanksgiving, Christmas, etc.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to bring this item to the Council's agenda for a variety of reasons. The first being that our fireworks vendor has gone ahead and asked us for a decision on what we're going to be doing on our 4th of July date, so that way she can figure out whether to procure equipment on her end for the original contract date, or if we had a date that we want to go ahead and postpone to. If Mayela can share our screen, I did want to share the data from today's collection regarding the COVID testing. So as of today, the City Health Department has announced that we have 3,069 positive cases to date. We have 1,059 active cases, 63 are pending results, and 766 are under monitoring.
Ms. Villalobos?
Mr. Rieta, do you, if we cancel the 4th of July, we still have to honor the contract number one, correct? I'm sorry, correct?
Yes, Mayela's gonna help me out in getting another screen for you, but I did want to let you know that we do have 153 cases reported in the 79927 zip code. 207 are reported today for the 79928 zip code, and 58 in the 79849 zip code.
Mr. Perez?
How are you, Victor? Good to hear your voice. Good to hear everybody's voice, actually. Just to ask, there are no penalties or of any kind if we postpone or anything like that, because surely they must take all this into account, correct?
Correct. To answer Ms. Colon Villalobos' question and yours, the vendor has actually went ahead and contacted us. We had a clause in there already put in by Jim where we have the option to set another date. We had already put a deposit for the date, and so we already have some money in the contract, and she's just asking us for another date that we would want to choose, so she can go ahead and book us early since we're a returning client and have access to that date. Did that answer your question?
But I guess, well, yes, it does, but we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly when we were able to I guess, reestablish another date. And so are they willing to work with us indefinitely? Because I think that we need to work on that premise that as far as this is concerned, the day that we are able to get together is still indefinite. And so I think that we need to work from that standpoint. And that's my concern, that they'll be working with us from that standpoint as well, that this is all very indefinite.
Correct. And she had the same request from other cities. So what we went ahead and recommend is saying if we can go ahead and put tentatively the 4th of July event for 2021, just so that way she knows that we're not looking to procure her services for this calendar year. We can go ahead and do that and just put in there for 2021, potentially the 4th of July event. Since every year it's not on the same day, she kind of just knows it's around 4th of July, depending where it lands on the day. We can go ahead and make that request from our vendor. And it's not a set date, but it's a set time frame of around 4th of July for the year 2021. What we would also recommend is continuing to promote online digital content, free public classes over the summer, and then revisiting the potential to open up programs and events as COVID statistics further decline at the end of July or in August, unless council will want to do it sooner.
Ms. Villalobos?
He just answered my question. Thank you.
Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes. I just want to add my 2 cents here. The last time I got the report, I checked. I know that the zip code, and it goes back to the same thing that I was saying, Mayor, when we talked to the county about giving us the actual figures, because it gives us a grim picture on 79927 zip code, because if you notice it overlaps and it gets a part of the county and parts of El Paso City on our zip code, because the majority of it lands in Socorro. But as of the figures that we've gotten, there was 62 total cases and only 21 were still active. I'm not in no way, shape, or form saying that it's okay to have these. No, we have to do everything in our power to try to eliminate the spread. And it's a good thing that we're postponing these events because even one case, and we do have one of our parades or we do have one of our events, it could spread very easily, very quickly through our community because we all in this community are family oriented. So I just want to say that actual numbers is 21 active cases, um, and not like what they are posting out to the public because everybody makes the assumption that all of those cases are here in the city of Socorro. I just wanted to just put my 2 cents in there just so everybody is well aware that um, it's not as bad as it people might seem because they look at that data that is out there for the public.
And Mayor, if I may, we went ahead and we researched what other cities are currently doing during the pandemic regarding parks, recreation centers, activities. We started with municipalities around our size, as well as other cities that kind of have events that attract other vendors and other participants from other cities, such as Socorro. So, for example, there's a huge festival that happens around San Marcos, Texas. We went ahead and looked at what their parks and activities look at. Currently, all centers, public libraries, children parks, public pools are closed, and they've canceled all their summer events, with fall and winter events tentatively being postponed until further discussion has been initiated. We looked at what the City of Horizon is doing. Currently, they're not engaged in any public programming in their parks, and their Movies Under the Stars hasn't been discussed yet. It's something that they're going to be discussing, I think, tomorrow. We looked at what the City of El Paso is also doing. Currently in El Paso, their parks and recreation centers are closed. They do have their walking trails open, and they're recommending, social distancing and limiting the number of people that are in their facilities. However, there's no actual events being promoted. Everything has gone virtual. And just to let council know, for the city of Socorro, we've experienced a 30% increase in our viewership. Over 40,975 people have been reached during our COVID public programming. Over 18,336 posts have seen engagement, and our videos advertising free classes and free engagement have been viewed over 11,000 times. Overall, our staff just wants to make sure that during this pandemic, we're doing the responsible thing and going ahead and discussing it with our council as well as administration. Mr. Dartas had us very engaged in what other cities have been doing, as well as communicating with not only the Office of Emergency Management in the county and other municipalities, but of course our health department. And overall, we just want to make sure that the health and well-being, not only for our senior citizens, but our children and our community members are being taken care of. We wouldn't discontinue any of our current vital services. For example, our senior citizens are still receiving meals during COVID pandemic through delivery services, so that wouldn't stop either. We just want to make sure that we're being responsible during the pandemic, as I mentioned.
Mr. Perez?
I would say that we need to postpone all the outdoor social activities or any of the gatherings, whether it's Christmas or well, I don't know if until it'll last till December, but surely in the short term we need to postpone all that because what happens unfortunately is that people who are maybe want to get out will be looking for activities, and if we're providing those activities, I think we'll have an influx of people wanting to participate. And so, irrespective of what the zip code is, we're going to have people come in if we offer these activities because they're looking. I mean, they're wanting to get out or enjoy some time with their family, whatever. And if we provide that, I think that we're helping the possibility of spreading the virus even further than it has to.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I totally agree, and that's what my whole premise was: is that it doesn't matter if we even have one case. We want to eliminate spread of this because this is something that could be harmful to the elderly or people with secondary or third ill. So this is something that we, like I said, we don't want to follow suit of everybody was doing. We just want to do what is right for our constituency. And I think that we're taking a proactive stand. And I think this is going to be good for our community because we want to look out for everybody's health and well-being.
Mr. Perez, so you're amending your motion to all outdoor activities, correct?
So I'll go ahead and amend my motion to postpone until such time that the state and or other higher authorities allow for public gatherings or social gatherings, or until such time that we see that we can safely allow people to gather, whether it's in outdoor spaces or indoor activities.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes. Item number 22, discussion and action on the plat approval for Pilot Express subdivision, being a 12.92 acres tract of land in Robert E. Nick survey number 304, apps 7893, and Robert E. Nick survey number 305, apps 7892, in El Paso County, Texas.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This application is for a lot split. The property is in Socorro CJ. It's owned by Pilot Express. It's right off of the Kent cutoff and the I-10. Pilot Express owns about 13 acres of land right outside Socorro. We want to split the property in half. Each lot would have approximately 6.5 acres. The purpose of this is just for their internal documents or contracts. This application was submitted by Monica Pretty. He's the person who's representing Pilot Express. This property is fully developed. They don't plan on adding any more structures to the property. If the plat is recorded, being split in half, they're gonna record on a separate document an access easement to the property in the back. It's gonna be a permanent access easement. It's already recorded. And there's the instrument number where the easement will be in this shape. And that's gonna be a permanent access for the property in the back. We already sent this back to the county and they agreed to this proposal. I don't know if you have any questions.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Joe, can you, the sound broke up for a minute. Did you say the easement has already been recorded?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're good.
Yes, correct.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes. Item number 23, discussion and action to consider adoption of a written charge stating the basis for removal of Board of Adjustment Commissioner Oscar Gutierrez and direct city attorney to prepare the written charge.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The reason for this written charge is on May 26th, around 2:49, Mr. Gutierrez stated to Mayela Granados, the executive assistant, that he does not want to participate in any virtual or teleconference meeting. Therefore, I believe that these meetings will last for a while based on what we just discussed earlier. And for the safety of our public and staff, I do recommend that we replace Mr. Gutierrez.
Mr. Perez?
And I would ask anyone, that has any, that might have a candidate to fill the spot. At this point, I have been unable to do so for replacement. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know so that we can go ahead and fill this position as quickly as possible. Again, I would love to have someone from District 3 fill the position. But again, I know that it's the continuity of these boards or commissions is important.
I may have somebody for you, sir.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Villalobos?
Ms. Rodarte, so it was explained to him why we were doing this. It was explained to him that it is allowable. The state has allowed us to do virtual meetings, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and he wanted no part of it.
Okay.
He said
And
if
you
it
have
wasn't
this?
in person,
Well-
he did not want to be involved.
Okay, all righty then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Perez?
I think, to your point, Ms. Villalobos, I think some people are more comfortable than others with doing the electronic broadcasting. And so they may not feel comfortable. And so I think that, unfortunately, and it's like anything, if someone doesn't want to do it, we can't force them to do it either. So, that's where we're at.
Question.
Ms. Villalobos?
One more question, I'm sorry. Was he offered also that he could do over the phone?
Yes, ma'am. We did explain that it didn't have to be through Zoom, that we could do it
Go ahead, ma'am.
by just dialing a number, and he chose that. He specifically said, if it's
Go
not
ahead.
in person, I do not want to participate.
Mr. Duran?
Could we get all that in writing rather than he said, she said? Have the, exactly what we're asking of him, and then having him write, no, I do not want to participate. So I don't want to come back 6 months from now and say, well, I got kicked off because so-and-so didn't like me. And this way we have it all in writing.
Sir, that's why you're doing a written charge. He does receive a mail, he does receive a letter in the mail. If you approve this, he will receive the letter in the mail, and he has the opportunity to come and speak to council.
Okay, that's good enough.
Mr. Perez? Mr. Nevares?
And we have several witnesses here right now.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 24, discussion and action on approving the Socorro Municipal Court operating plan and the Supreme Court emergency order regarding the COVID-19 in-person proceedings and jury trials.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a presentation or discussion?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, the Zoom kicked me out of the meeting, but I am available by, oh, well, I'm back.
You're back.
So, sorry, not Ms. Colombia Los, but Judge Velarde is on the phone, but she is also participating in a bench trial at the same time, so that's probably why she is not available right now. But
I'm here.
You're here? Okay, perfect. So the plan is to be able to reopen for the public. There are certain guidelines, and a plan of action needs to be presented to council and approved before she can forward it to the health director for approval. And then she submits it to, I don't know exactly where, but she will be able to give you a little bit of more information regarding why this plan is needed. Judge?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's also good to see everybody through here. So what this is a plan that all of the courts in the state of Texas need to go forward with. It's basically, if I'm sure you received the copy, you'll see on the very top, it says template. It's because there was a template given to all of us. All it's asking for is what our ideas are and what our plan is to protect the public, the community, as well as staff and employees who come into the courtroom. I followed, for the most part, what the El Paso Municipal Court is doing. I had spoken to some of the other courts, Anthony, Horizon, and we're all pretty much on the same page with this. What happens from here is I do need to get approval from here. If it is approved, then I will forward that to the health department, who will also give approval. From there, it gets sent to the regional presiding judge, which is Judge Abels, who, once he gives his stamp of approval, will be able to hold in-person hearings. We are definitely limiting those hearings. A lot of people don't want to come in, and that's okay. We are making concessions for that. We've been very successful through phone. We've been very successful through other means, talking to the community to get some of these hearings out of the way. But this is mostly in regards to the arraignments. In the past couple of weeks, we have had Zoom hearings for attorneys, and the attorneys have been very accepting of this until otherwise, noted. We may still continue those. We don't really have jury trials in Socorro, but if we do, and there comes a time that we do, we'll be able to make concessions for that as well. So I wanted to bring this forward to you all to see if you had any questions, concerns, anything else maybe that you thought should be added into this. That way we can come to a consensus to be able to send that off and open up the doors.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I saw this in the county. They also did the same thing on Monday. So they did really specify that it had to be done and it had to be approved and then so forth, so that they can open to the public as soon as possible. So this is something that was going to come in, and I agree. So just wanted to say that.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes. Item number 25, discussion and action to recommend changes to extend minimum front setbacks for all properties facing collector streets, minor arterials, and major arterials of Chapter 46, zoning, Article 4, district regulations.
Mayor?
Do we have a question first?
Mayor?
Mr. Larta?
I wanted to say that this item was brought up on January the 16th, and the motion was for staff to bring it back for a recommendation, and our city planner does have a recommendation regarding this request. Mike?
Yes. So one of the things that we were looking at is in combination of the amount of accessible roadways that we have, and obviously there's a tiering system that is not only identified through our major thoroughfare plan, but also with regard to federal aid at the MPO. And so one of the things that we have to also consider is that we have the transit, and we also have transit that transports students to schools. And so ultimately, what we had discussed within the department, and I did mention it to the city manager, is that essentially we don't think that it is very wise of us to just arbitrarily make the change. So if there is a desire by the body to go ahead and investigate a little bit further, we would recommend a feasibility study and go out there and seek an engineer, and which of course would require some legal attention to this as part of the team. So essentially the department is actually saying that we would not recommend to make this change right now. However, if the body wants to move forward with the feasibility study, we would certainly respond to that.
Mayor, and the reason for that is just it affects the major arterials and minor arterials. And we all know that our biggest challenges in Socorro is the infrastructure that we lack. So every opportunity that we have with new development, and that's why we set these setbacks. So that's the reason why we believe a feasibility study would give us a more professional view if this is possible or not.
Mr. Perez?
So this would be a third-party feasibility study?
Correct. We don't have the in-house staff to be able to do at this caliber of a study because it does involve TechStop's roadways. I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to add, Mike?
No, I think that's pretty accurate, and forgive me because sometimes I still believe I'm a transportation planner, and I think everybody understands me. But going back to the functional classification, that's exactly it, is that there's a hierarchy of streets. We own some, TxDOT owns some, the county may own some. And so when we arbitrarily were to make a decision like this without considering other bodies, we can actually affect them. We can affect future transit, future roadway projects. Ultimately, the desire is that if a third party were to come in and do an assessment.
Ms. Villalobos?
And in reading how this agenda item was posed, and it says all, the thing is that I think when this law was written, or this ordinance was written, we still didn't have North Loop wide enough. This law this applies or does not, or applies to every property in major arteries, however you want to say it. But this is why I believe we should do the study because when they widen North Loop, in this case, I'm talking about North Loop just right now, they've already taken, what they were going to take from each side. If they were to leave it the way it is for future growth in 30 years, then you're literally saying that you have to take most of the property owner's property because you're leaving almost nothing. So unless you're out there looking at these properties, how small they are already, because they had to give up because we did a four-way lane, but not all North Loop is that way, and I know Socorro's not that way at all. But so I think it's a good idea if we do. Now, I also want to that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Perez?
I think that, we need to go ahead. If we're wanting to do this, we need to get either RFPs or RFQs, or maybe we have somebody that's on a buy board of some sort, because this is not going to be cheap. And so I think that we need to first see what the cost or the potential cost will be before we move forward with a full-blown feasibility study. Although I know that we need to take stock as to what we have in terms of infrastructure, how we can improve it, and those kinds of things. That's been forever, and the request from constituents has been, sidewalks. But the last thing I want to do is build a sidewalk right in front of somebody's house that's almost next to that runs alongside their front door or into a living room.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I totally agree. But I will say this. Why is it that I have to bring an agenda item for something that we already approved in January so that we can get a recommendation? That is the thing that I've been trying to tell you guys all of the time, is that we set the laws, we set approvals, and nothing gets done. Why is it that I had to bring this up now so that we can start moving in the direction that we want to do when we already approved something? Why is it taking so long? That is my question. Why? And I'm going to say this. There are ordinances, like I said all the time, and I've been saying it for this is going to be the 5th meeting where I get a chance and I say the same thing. We need to look at all our ordinances because they're antiquated. And this is one of them. We need to address the issue because there's people that want to build in Socorro, and because of setbacks or because we just, our ordinances are just everywhere. They're not, we don't let them build. So what happens? These people will end up going to Horizon or sell their property or just leave them there all dilapidated. Those are the things that we want to change. We want to change the mindset that we are ready for business, especially on North Loop because it's already widened. All I'm saying is we need to look at these ordinances. And I want to say this and I want to stress this out. I don't want to be waiting for 5 months when we approve something so that we can come back and let us know, oh, well, we decided on this. No. We already approved it. We need action as soon as possible. Okay? Because I have an issue with this ordinance. I have another issue where this lady wants to open up, wants to put a mobile home and we're forcing her to do a driveway. And there's another issue with oh my God, there's just a lot of issues that I'm gonna bring, you know? And it's not just because of one, there's many people, okay? I have issues, I have two businesses that also say that, hey, your ordinances doesn't allow us to put structures, okay? They're willing to pay for the fee, the permit, but we don't allow them to because, oh my God, it's either this or that on the ordinances. We're antiquated. We need to change it. What happens is that's why we're getting all these canopies around us. And what happens is they're doing it illegally. Why? Because we don't change our ordinances because we're antiquated. And they do them, and what happens? You know, that's what I'm just trying to say is that we need to start moving fast on these. All I'm saying is this ordinance needs to be revised. We need to look at what can we do to help anybody who wants to build. The street is already widened in some areas. We need to look at setbacks and be able to say, hey, you can bring a business, you can build a shop, you can build a shopping center, you know, but we have to look at our ordinances. That's what all I'm saying. I don't really mind if we don't. All I'm saying is that if we already did something on January 19th, why are we just barely finding out that, oh yeah, we make this, we'll do this. I mean, I could have just thought about that next day and bring it up on the following agenda. That's my issue. So I make a motion to go out and look at this ordinance and see if we can revise it and look for a third party so that they can look and see how much it's going to cost us before we move on it.
Second.
And we have a speaker for this item, Miriam Cruz.
Ms. Villalobos?
Hi. Yeah, I'm here. So I have I have to agree with Mr. Rodriguez that there are many things, and I had mentioned in these meetings too, you know, putting deadlines or putting follow-up dates for certain agenda items. I mean, I've mentioned that before as well in my comments. And so I share his passion and his frustration. But at the same time, I think we're mixing two things up. From what I understood, Mr. Medina is talking about something that everyone else around us is having to follow because these are roads, right? Like these are certain rules that need to be followed. And so I'm not sure that argument falls, you know, for this item. Do we need to look at our ordinances? Absolutely. Are they antiquated? Absolutely. But we're talking about roads and rules that have to be followed kind of across the board. And so I'm not sure if you can justify as a city council the money that you're about to spend on going out to get a feasibility study on something that is supposed to be followed across the board. I'm not really sure what streets is there a specific street that you want to focus on or two streets that you want to focus on? Because if that's the case, then why don't you just do that instead of, you know, talking about the whole ordinance or the whole types of roads? I I think we're talking
Ms.
about two different
Ms.
things, and I
Cruz,
hope
your
the
time is up.
council. Thank you.
Ms. Villalobos?
So, I want to remind everybody, we went to Terrell, Texas, last, a year and a half. And, one of the things they taught, or they stressed, was we had to work with the community. We had to work with the community. And one of the things that they, stressed was also looking at our ordinances to work with the community, to keep the community, to be able to, work with the community, because obviously, that's who put us in the seats that we're in. Not by breaking any rules or any laws, but, this is an ordinance that was placed by the city of Socorro, elected officials, I don't know when, this ordinance has been in place, but we have grown already. We have grown, we have added roads, and so this ordinance is still hurting those that have already given up and are already in a four-way. And then they're still asking for additional from that, leaving their properties half of what they are, which is, and for what? For future growth in 30 years? We have multiple constituents going through this situation. And so I know it's gonna cost money, but it's necessary. It's necessary. Terrell taught us that. It was necessary because at the end of the day, they had all these businesses coming in and buying within the city. So I really, really stress that we need to do this. Maybe Ms. Cruz said something about maybe a certain area that we need to look, maybe just the areas that have already been expanded, if it's going to be too expensive, or whatever the case might be. Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, all I'm saying is that we need to look at this, but I get it and I understand, but we are our own municipality. We can do and change our ordinances as we please. I understand that there's a lot of things that we would have to look at with TxDOT, but that's not one of them. I mean, we understand that we have to look and work with other entities, and that's what we'll do. All I'm saying is it doesn't hold us and it doesn't set us back. We need to look at the road that has been built, and we need to look and address the setbacks, because even if it's for a minor or a major artery, we need to look at it. We need to look at it. We're talking about the money, yes, and Socorro is still gonna have vacant lots, growing weeds and stuff on a road that cost us, 17 to 24 million dollars, and it looks not good. Because why? Because we don't want to change our ordinances or our setbacks to accommodate future expansions and growth. And think about all the lost revenue that we could be getting if we would have just changed our ordinances. So those are the things that we're trying to address. We're trying to address two major things in this city. We want to address, one, the beautification of our city. The second is trying to change the mentality that all the homeowners pay our taxes. And that's the brunt of our taxes, people. We want to change that mentality. We want to bring growth and companies and shopping centers and stuff like that. So what? So that in the future, we will be able to change and offset that our tax base might decrease, because the brunt of the taxpayer that's going to pay is all the businesses. And that's what we want to do. If you look at Baxter, their tax rate for a homeowner is very small, because all of the companies they have out there. And that's what we want to do. But if we continue to not look and revamp our ordinances, then we're not going to have growth. We're going to be stagnant, and we're not going to beautify our city at the same time. Look at old Waco tanks. We go and we services and we cut it, but we cut the weeds. We don't pull them out, we cut them. And what happens 2 weeks later? They're all looking at ugly. And it's a brand new road. You know, I struggle to, we struggle to bring it. Okay? And what happens? It's not looking like a brand new road. So that's what I want to do to North Loop. We want to beautify at the same time. And if people want to come in and build, then let's help and see what we can do as a municipality. We want to offset the taxpayer so that the community and the shopping centers and the businesses pay more, not more, but more businesses will equal a higher revenue so that maybe in the future we might cut taxes on the homeowner. That is what I'm trying to do. And we know that all of us have that same vision. Mr. Uran, I know that we had that discussion, I think like 4 years ago. And we agreed in principle that, you know what, hey, we need to change that mentality and offset the homeowner. You know, I'm pretty sure that all of us here, like I said, I throw Mr. Duran in the conversation because we did have that conversation, and he agrees as well. Is that why is it that all of these taxes? Why? Because our ordinances are old. We need to do something about this.
Mr. Perez?
I think that, yeah, we need to, whenever we do these kinds of studies, and I apologize, my dog wants to get into the conversation, that we need to have these kinds of studies done as comprehensively as possible to cover the entire city, because the last thing we want is we have to have that balance, that we don't want to be accused of, oh, we're favoring one area over another, because we need to see all areas as having potential for growth, whether it be residential areas or business areas. In my case, I'm looking at the historical areas where of Old Socorro, where we have that stretch on Socorro Road where we had what used to be the bookery and those kinds of things, or maybe even rehab some old buildings, whatever the case may be. But we need to be able to maximize every area of the city. And I think that's the only way that can be done is by doing that, having a comprehensive feasibility study, so that we are able to, at a moment's notice, be able to offer a plan, much like the comprehensive, like the comprehensive municipal plan that we have, growth plan, because that way that may be able to, excuse me, I'm sorry, may be able to free up funding or whatever, just like the parks, having a parks plan did for grants or whatever. I think that we need to be able to make sure that we have a plan for each section of the city so that we're ready for funding if and when it ever becomes available.
I think what we discussed was a sunset commission or sunset committee regarding ordinances. Having a committee look at each ordinance and see if they need to be improved, changed, or deleted. And I think that's something that rather than wait until they come up, if we get a little more proactive and start looking at them now, each ordinance, and then we can have them ready in a better form when they come up, and that way we won't have to be doing what we're doing now, going back 5 months and waiting for changes. If we had done these changes years ago, we wouldn't have to be worrying about it now.
As I hear Mr. Duran speaking, I want to say that we had talked about systematically looking at the ordinances and revising and modifying and bringing them up to standard, to modern standards. So I guess, and I understand Mr. Rodriguez's concerns as well, because I thought that there was a plan in place to look at the code and revamp them as necessary for that same reason, to modernize.
René Rodriguez.
just to reiterate, it's just to go out and see how much it's going to cost us I'm just um, uh, I'm just saying what oh my goodness, I won't go in blank. Um, I'm just going to repeat it. We're just going to see, to get to do a feasibility study and how much it's going to cost us to just look at this ordinance and look at all the setbacks from minor to major artery. Um, or like Mr. Perez said, just look at it as a complete whole and we'll go from there. So
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 26, discussion and action to remove Mr. Jesus Chaides from Building and Standards Commission and appoint him to the Board of Adjustments, Place 5.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Mayor, I just wanted to, we actually asked Mr. Rodriguez if he could, so Mr. Chaides, when he was assigned at the last meeting to the Building and Standards, however, he's the only person that has been appointed, and he wants to serve now. He doesn't want to wait until others are served, so he did ask if there was other vacancies. So the Board of Adjustments really needs the people in order for us to be able to meet. So we reached out to Mr. Rodriguez to see if he would reassign him, and that's why this item is before you.
Mr. Duran?
Why didn't he just resign from Building and Standards? And, then Mr. Rodriguez could have appointed him to a Board of Adjustments.
Because he was just appointed at the last meeting. So when he went to go sign his paperwork, he asked when we were meeting, and I said, you only have one item, so this is the easiest way. That way he can serve next Thursday, as opposed to waiting for the resignation letter, bringing the resignation letter, then waiting another meeting in order to be able to accept the resignation.
Okay.
Rene Rodriguez,
Mr. Dan, it's just a faster and cleaner way to.
We need to get him in there.
Yes, sir.
Understood.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Lobos.
Yes.
Item number 27, discussion and action on charter amendments, Articles 3, Section 3.12 through Section 3.16, and adding 3.17 through 3.21.
We're going to. Hi, guys. Oh, Miss Mayor.
Ms. Villalobos?
I don't know if you saw, I sent my revised pages. And I actually have some of those, I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. Some of that stuff that I sent, I have questions. I do want to, I didn't do this on my own. I did team up with some of our council members that we've met throughout our TML meetings. I'm fortunate to have kept some pretty good relationships, and they've been helping me through this process because it's not easy. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up what I sent Mrs. Rodarte. I can come back if you guys have any discussion or.
So Mayor and Council, the last meeting, we had added the section 3.12 through 316. We had stated that you would all review and come back and give us some feedback on your end. And then you asked for us to add other sections in order for us not to get behind. So that's why we added the 317.321, so you can review this meeting and we can discuss at the next meeting. But we were waiting for feedback on 3.12 through 3.16.
Mr. Arte, I know that most of those revisions were made by the finance director.
Correct.
Can we have him just kind of give us his input really quick?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Casiano?
Yes. In as far as section 3.12, where it is the audit and examination of city books and accounts, the verbiage I thought was a little clunky. So I would like to include the possibility, first of all, of having an audit committee. And if we have an audit committee, that audit committee should be the engaging entity for any audits, especially if we're going to do so in the near future. I also included some of the changing some of the words to include rather than it says not more than 60 days. To be honest with you, it's almost impossible to do anything within 60 days because we're actually technically have to keep our books open for those 60 days. And so what I would rather it say is as soon as practicable after the close of each fiscal year. And that would be from from after where it says city council, and it would say city council or its audit committee, if one has been established, shall have the audit prepared as soon as practicable after the close of each fiscal year. The other thing, and that's in paragraph A. So in section 13.1.2, paragraph B, it says such audit shall include a recapitulation of all internal audits made during the course of the fiscal year. I don't think that that's an appropriate statement. You know, usually the auditors are just going to rely on their own work. They're not going to do a recapitulation of somebody else's work, especially if they don't use it. They might use it, but they don't have to. And I think that probably should be removed.
Mr. Perez?
You know, I can see where Mr. Castellanos is coming from, but I would like to see some kind of a timeline. And I know that I can see Mr. Castellanos' point, but by the same token, we can't assume that all of our staff members or all of whatever audit committee or whatever agency or organization that's looking over the books will be as diligent. And so we need to have some kind of timeline. And whether it's 90 days or 120 days, whatever the case may be. But I think that we do need to have a timeline so that we do have a ticking clock so that whomever is conducting an audit or whatever the case may be, that there is a timeline set to them.
Well, I agree with that, and probably the 90 to 120 days, somewhere in there. Either one would be more appropriate.
Again, I would defer. I'm sorry, ma'am. I would just defer to Mr. Castellano on the duration, but certainly I'd like to have some kind of limit. So if it's again, whether it's 90 or 120, I would defer to Mr. Castellano, but I would like to see a set time frame.
Ms. Villalobos?
One of the suggestions I was given was, and I've been learning a lot. It's pretty awesome. Is that through the GASB? Am I correct on that, Mr. Cassiano?
We call it GASB.
GASB, okay, GASB. My understanding that because it's governmental, it has to have It has to stay the way it is now, but I implore you to double check their standards before we, change the dates. That's my suggestion. That's a suggestion that was given to me.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. Because those are the standards that, I believe we have to follow, is what I was told. And for that reason, they suggested not to, remove any of the verbiage in, B or A.
B?
Yes, B or A. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Did you say 312, right? We're in 312, correct? Or what are we? 302 or 312?
312.
Yes, okay, yes. Then I am correct. So I guess, we have some homework to do to make sure that, we are compliant with the gas fee.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor, this ordinance, well, not this ordinance, this charter, was done back in 85, I believe. Mr. Perez? Right? So laws change.
I think actually it's more like 88, 90 maybe, around there, where there was a put to a vote again.
So sufficiently more than 10 years, correct? Very.
A long time ago.
Right. So, if Mr. Casiano, and I agree with you, Mr. Perez, we do need a date just to have something saying that it'll be done by then. I think that 90 or 100 days would suffice if the gas fee doesn't really say that you have to, or it's changed. So if it's changed, then we can take your opinion on the 90 or 120 days. If not, and it is set, then we leave it as is.
Excellent.
So I think that we're all in agreement so that Mr. Casiano can have more time. If he's able to say, well, it has changed and we have the ability to change the date to 90 or 120 and whatever he sees fit, and then we could eliminate as well as B. Just if, one more time, if the law has changed and does permit us to do that. Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
And that is for section A?
And the elimination of B as well.
A and B.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just read another note. I apologize. Also, I'm sorry. Also, it says, need to check with GASB and, GASB and the federal and state law regulation standards for government entities. So we could include, I don't know if all that is the same umbrella or, two different umbrellas, but to make sure that, we are compliant. And then, I also made a note on, the city council shall, and, it says cause, and I think Mr. Casiano, you were suggesting emerge, and I did provide both meanings of each one, and I believe cause is.
Section, Villalobos, please.
I apologize, 312, we're still in 312, audit and examination. First sentence, the city council says shall emerge is the change, emerge, take away cause.
I'm sorry, it should say engage.
Oh, I apologize, okay. Well, then I didn't pull the right, I apologize. I thought it said emerge and it just didn't make sense. Or it didn't have, it wasn't strong enough as causes. And so you're suggesting that it should say what? I'm sorry,
Engage.
engage. And do we, okay. The word cause says make something happen, a principle, aim, or movement that because of a deep commitment, that's the reason, I just, in discussing, they were suggesting we didn't change that, but I don't know the meaning of engage or the weight of the word. And we certainly need weight, that sticks in our charter right now. This is why, one of the reasons we need to change our charter is because we have a lot of words in there that can be interpreted differently. But when you put a word that is absolute, then it gives weight to the statement.
Mr. Perez?
I think that Mr. Casiano's word of engage would apply like engaging in the services of a third party auditor or those kinds of things. But if you allow it, I think that a better word may be shall require an audit to be made, so that it is something that we it has the meaning that that we're wanting, versus cause has a, to me, has a, you know, it's a very I don't know I don't know how to describe it, but it doesn't like really capture the essence. I think if we use require, I think that it might that'll capture the essence of what we're looking at. But as far as engage, if I think if we use the word engage, then we need to also stipulate what are we engaging? Is it a services of a third party? If the word requirement is not used.
Well, you know, one of the reasons I picked engage is that when you hire an auditor, they have you sign what's called an engagement letter, and that's why that word.
And that's fine, but I think that if we're going to, because if we're going to use the word engage, then we need to show, we need to detail what we're going to engage. And to your point, yes, it's an engagement letter, but we will be engaging in the services of the third party auditor to provide that audit.
I'm just gonna say, I'm just a simple man, and I would just say do instead of engage. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Use the word that you guys want. Doesn't matter.
Ms. Villalobos?
Shall is a very good word for our charter, so I agree with Mr. Perez. If we don't have any more discussion, I'd like to move on, well, go back to 3.10. In interference with administration.
Mayor, and we're not posted for that?
Oh,
That
we're
was at
not?
the last
Okay, I'm
meeting.
sorry.
Yes.
I apologize.
And I think we already took action on that as well.
Okay, and I'll just bring it up when the time comes.
I guess the next section would be 3.17 through 3.21. Does anybody have any comments?
What is it again? I apologize. 3 what?
3.17 through 3.21.
I still have a comment on 3.13. Is it possible? Or I have a question. I'm sorry.
3.15?
3.13.
Yes, ma'am. We are posted for that.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you guys were breaking up one more time?
We are posted for that section?
Just, my question is E. Yes, regulating the rate charges for its services by public utilities. Are we doing this?
Yes, if you recall, on certain executive meetings where we bring the rate cases that come from the El Paso Electric or the gas company when they're trying to change the rate.
Okay, that's exactly
And
what
we
you're doing. You're
piggyback off
regulating it.
of the city of El Paso. So the attorney's really good and the city clerk that every time there's a rate change, that we bring it to council.
Gotcha. I just, that was a question. And on J of the same section, one of the suggestions, and I know you guys are gonna hit the fan, but I'm just putting it out there. When we go out, I'm sorry? When we go out for certificates of obligation, one of the things that was suggested was, well, one of the questions, what do you use your certificate? Well, there's tons of things that we use them for. And they said you might want to restrict it or limit it to a number of use so you can get the full capacity of the use of it instead of moving it around all the time. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I know we have a lot of necessities, and this is why we use it that way. But I would like to hear your input.
Mr. Perez?
In terms of the certificate of obligation, Jim, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you are limited in the scope of usage. And I think I want to say maybe I have a totally different perspective, but I want to say that we've been pretty focused as to what we're using them for. It hasn't been, I mean, like it's been for city improvements. I want to say, but again, that's just my perspective on it.
Yes, sir. Statutorily, your limited use is defined in the statute that you can put them to. So the legislature has already spoken on that. And then two, contractually, when you actually sell the COs, you can limit it further. And we typically do. We typically say they're for uses to be designated X, Y, and Z. And we don't always do that. I'm sorry, that's an issue of some controversy throughout the state. Not all municipalities do that. Most of them do, and what those that do, it's frequently even more specific than the statute requires.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you.
Yes, and just to add to that, we've been audited many times. We have come out on the good end of our audits. We don't misuse the funds that we get in the certificates of obligation. I just want to stress that out. Every audit has come clean on that. We've used the money for what needs to be done, Mr. Perez and Ms. Villalobos. Just to ease your mind, we haven't done anything. Our audits reflect that. Remember, these auditors that come in are third-party vendors that come on and make sure that we are abiding by state and federal laws, even our local laws as well. So there's nothing that we have misuse in the city. And I'm pretty sure that all of us continue and will continue to do so as long as we're here to obey by the law. So, just so that we won't, give misinformation that we might be doing any wrongdoing or stuff of that nature. I just want to stress that out, that every single audit has come out clean and that we have not misused any funds on the obligations of certificates.
Ms. Villalobos?
Thank you for that, all of you. And these questions are very important because some of us have weak knowledge of it, or maybe just a little bit of knowledge. And when we come together and ask the questions, that just makes us a lot stronger. And that's all I have for you guys. We looked at up to ordinance 321 and everything else was okay.
I agree.
Mr. Duran?
Are we up to section 3.18 yet? Yeah. That one there, now that we have split elections, I think we're gonna try and have to figure out some way to address this, because when this was written, everybody was under election at the same time. Now, we're having split elections where 2 years or, when, like this coming year, 2021, we have elections, 2020, we have elections. So this is, I don't know how we can affect that.
Are we posted for that? I'm sorry.
Mr.
Yeah, we are. Section-
Until 3.21. Mr. Rodriguez?
I just want to pony back. I just want to jump on Mr. Well, that's even inappropriate. I mean, I just want to add on to Mr. Duran. Can you elaborate when it says split?
We have, like this year, in 2020, we have 3 people are coming up for election.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 of us are not. We're not lame duck. So we're being, see what I'm saying? We're being penalized by not being able to bring items that are over $3,000 because of the fact that 3 of you are up for election this year.
Was that done when the charter was done, or this was?
Oh, yeah, as it's written right here.
Remember I'm sorry, I apologize, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Perez.
Remember that we had the elections were all at one time, so they weren't staggered. So it was easy to comply with it because everybody was on the same timeline. But now that we have staggered elections, to Mr. Duran's point, I don't know how, and maybe Jim can provide that guidance, how other municipalities stay within the lame duck requirements, and if they are on staggered terms, so that we don't, we don't contravene our own charter.
Mayor.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Before Jim answers, thank you. I just want to stress out that I did not know that they were staggered and that we had a split. I don't know when this happened, because I know that when I got elected on 2013, it was back then we came in and I got into a unexpired term, and then it was still split, and then I got reelected, and then it was still split. So I did not know that it was staggered before. So is that something, I agree with Mr. Duran. If it did, then it goes back to the same thing, that it's antiquated. And if there's something that the state says that it has to be done, or could we change it, Jim? That is the question that we all need to be.
And then one more comment, Madam Mayor, if I may. In terms of the election, remember that we had tossed around that idea that we always said, well, having staggered elections are better in terms of the continuity of projects and those kinds of things on council. But we're now seeing maybe the ramifications of that our charter doesn't address that appropriately. So again, Jim, I would defer to you on that.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, I can tell you, the terms have been staggered. It was, for some time, it was a product of the ordinance that the council, I think in 2012, passed, maybe might have even been 2011, passed changing the length of their terms. And then the quo warranto lawsuit, the lawsuit that the county attorney brought after that. And so by judicial fiat, we ended up with different staggered terms. And that's where we're at now. And yes, you're right, that it's not embodied. You wouldn't know that if you just read the charter. You can't tell. Lame duck provisions, I can tell you are, well, let me start with this. That you have staggered terms doesn't really affect the lame duck provision. That most municipalities in the state have staggered terms, particularly the larger ones. Most of the home rule ones, almost all the home rule cities, which are the larger ones, have staggered terms. That's totally routine. I can tell you, if you went back 30, 40 years, lame duck provisions were common. Most municipalities would have them. It was almost uniform. They're not unheard of now, but they're far less common than they used to be. The whole lame duck provision itself, in some ways is sort of an old-fashioned idea. I don't know the entire history of it, but my sense is that it was one way to prevent malfeasance, sort of done quietly and under the table in a short window of opportunity. And in 2020, when if you have a cell phone, you can watch every single city council meeting online from all over the state. That's probably less of a concern. And again, I would emphasize, that doesn't mean they don't exist. There are still some municipalities that have them. You can do away with it, you can keep it, whether or not you have the staggered terms.
Mr. Perez?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Can we just do away with it? Because if that's the case, I think that in this day and age, I think that we're all pretty good about checking each other in terms of what we're doing. And really, because of the way we're set up, I don't think that you really can do anything, to your point, Jim, that may be considered malfeasance with all of us being in cahoots. I don't see that.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, you can do away with it.
Mr. Duran?
I think, well, first of all, Mr. Rodriguez, when this was put together, you were probably still in diapers. So, but I think we can do away with it because, like you said, now there are staggered terms. They cannot all get together and spend a lot of money because the people that are left are going to have to answer for it. So we can probably just do away with it. It's kind of like you said, Jim. It is antiquated, and I think the way that the council is now, 3 on, 3 off, we can keep each other in check.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I agree with Mr. Duran and Mr. Perez. I think that it looks like that we are all in agreement where we can do without. And my other question is, for us in council, do you think that we should go back to all of us run at the same time, or we just leave it alone? Because we're talking about a cost, and that's the other issue, the cost for elections. I don't mind either way. I don't mind if it stays the same because I've been doing it since I got elected. So to me, it makes no difference whatsoever. I'm just posing the question.
I think that.
But hold on, before, I'm just saying that I agree we should eliminate this, the lame duck, because we will put each other, we're all good about it. You know, we all look, see what everybody else is doing. And I think that we haven't done anything wrong so far. We will continue to do it as long as we're here. And I think that this is antiquated. And just pose the question of the other one where, I don't know, it's just.
I think that if we have everybody on, everybody off at the same time, it goes back, and I very much am in favor of the argument that we need to have that continuity because we've seen how long it takes to acclimate. Even when you're staggered, for any new person to the city council, it takes a while to get acclimated and get into the groove of what's going on and those kinds of things. So I think that this, even though they're, like to your point, Mr. Rodriguez, there might be an added cost in terms of elections, but I think it's important to have that continuity of knowledge from one body to the next in terms of people that are serving. That's my opinion.
I just think on section 3.19, in order to continue making our charter a living document, I think we should remove the specific section and then just leave the proceeds to be used as set forth in the tax code. That way, if it ever changes, we can just follow the tax code. Does anybody else have any other comments on any other section? Ms. Villalobos?
Also, one of the comments was keeping the title city secretary versus city clerk and changing the city clerk's title to city secretary because we don't have a city secretary, but we have a clerk. So it's kind of like putting this is how it was explained to me. putting the cart before the horse.
Where's this at?
Everywhere, on the charter, it says city secretary, city secretary. So at one of the last meetings, we had said to make sure that anywhere where it says city secretary, change it over to city clerk. But the other suggestion I was gonna make, we could do city secretary / clerk, and I wanted Mrs. Rodarte's opinion on that.
I think by keeping it at city clerk would suffice. I don't recall the last time the city had the city secretary. I do know that we have had conversations in the past of city clerk or any appointed by the city manager in case the city clerk is no longer here.
I get, okay, so what you're saying is it's two different positions.
No. No, I'm saying we should change it to city clerk to update it to how the city is right now.
Okay.
I don't know if in the past the position was city secretary when this charter was created. And the only reason it hasn't been updated is when I present the new sections, I don't like to modify it until it comes to council, then we go back and try, just because I don't want the public to say that we're changing it.
Okay.
And I know this is gonna sound weird, but it was more of a prestige kind of thing, having a city secretary versus a city clerk. So I didn't know if it was two different positions, and that's why I wanted to ask.
Mr. Perez?
I think that, if I remember correctly, I think our first city secretary was Ms. Nani Rodela. And so I think that, the title applied at that time. But I think that, to Ms. Colombia Lobos' point, at one point, I think that the term secretary had a more grandiose, flair to it. But I think that the connotation or the denotation has changed. And so I think that in keeping with the sign of the times, I think maybe that clerk would be, it's what we make of it. So if we give it the prestige as a secretary, I think it's the same thing. And that would just keep the continuity and the consistency of it.
It's up to you guys. Just, it was brought up and I thought I'd bring it up.
Leave it. Let's move on.
10-4.
We do have a speaker for this item.
Miriam Cruz?
Hi, I'm not gonna lie, I walked away. I heard half of the things that you guys said. It's so much easier to walk away when I'm at home, but there is one thing that I did want to bring up, and again, I don't know if you guys talked about it. In 3.14, ordinances in general, section D, where it talks about publishing, it means to print in one or more newspapers of general circulation. This is just something that goes back to something I've always mentioned about it being one of the things that I was told years ago when I first started attending the meetings was that things couldn't be posted online or on social media because one, that's not what was required, and two, it was no one's job to do that. And then I guess things have been a little bit more changing, but I think it would be nice to have it in ordinance. Again, just like Mr. Perez mentioned, keeping up with the times, is that, newspapers, as much as I like them, they're a dying form of media. And so I just believe that it needs to be updated to include the website and actually say that, including any social media platforms that the city may have. I think that's important. And I have other comments, but I'm sure my time is about to run out, so.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz.
anybody have any other comments on this item?
I think what's there is pretty much standard, no?
Yes.
Do we have anything for the next three items, Mr. Arte or Mr. Martinez?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
So I'll go ahead and motion to delete those three items, ma'am.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn?
Even your dog wants us to adjourn.
Enough.
Rene Rodriguez,
Oh, I was muted. I'm sorry. Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
And we adjourn at 8:01.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Be safe.